The thick green leaves moved in the warm wind as Tejo pushed through the jungle. Sweat ran down his face, but he kept walking. Behind him, his 3 team members followed the path he made through the thick plants. "This place is beautiful," So-min said, stopping to look at a bright purple flower. She was the plant expert of their group. Everything new and strange made her excited. "I have never seen anything like these flowers on other worlds." Woojin wiped dirt from his hands. He had been digging in the soil, looking for minerals. "The ground here is rich with metals we need. This moon could make our people very wealthy." Hyrie walked at the back of the group. She carried the big radio on her back. Her job was to talk to the ships in space and tell them what the team found. "I still cannot reach the main ship. Something is blocking our signals." Tejo stopped and looked around. He had been a soldier before becoming a survey team leader. His eyes always watched for danger. The jungle was too quiet. No birds sang, no small animals moved in the trees. "We should set up camp soon," he said. "The sun will go down in 2 hours." They had been on this moon for 5 days. The company sent them to see if humans could live here and take the valuable things from the ground. So far, everything looked good. The air was clean, the water was safe to drink. Plants grew everywhere, but Tejo felt like something was wrong. His soldier training made him notice things others missed. Sometimes he saw shadows move when no wind blew. Sometimes he heard sounds that did not belong in a jungle. "Commander," So-min called. She was looking at some strange marks on a tree. "What do you think made these cuts?" Tejo walked over to look. Deep cuts went into the bark. They were too clean to be made by any animal he knew. The cuts looked like they came from a very sharp blade. Probably just the local animals marking their territory, he said. But he did not believe his own words. He had seen marks like this before in old war files. Alien hunters sometimes left marks like this. As the sun began to set, they found a good place to camp. It was a small clearing with rocks on one side and thick trees on the other. Hyrie set up her radio equipment. Woojin started a fire. So-min collected plant samples. Tae-ho checked their weapons. They only had basic protection tools. Nobody expected to find dangerous life on this moon. The first survey drone said it was safe. "Still no signal to the ship," Hyrie said, hitting the radio with her hand. "This is very strange." "The equipment worked fine yesterday. Maybe the weather is causing problems," Woojin suggested. He was cooking their dinner over the fire. Tejo did not think it was the weather. Someone or something was stopping their signals on purpose. He kept this thought to himself. His team was already nervous about being alone on an unknown world. As night came, the jungle changed. Strange sounds echoed through the darkness. Blue and green lights flashed in the trees. The air smelled different, like metal and electricity. "What are those lights?" So-min asked, pointing into the forest. "Probably just natural electricity from the plants," Tejo said. "Many jungle worlds have plants that make light." But he gripped his weapon tighter. The lights moved in patterns that looked too organized to be natural. Something intelligent was out there. High in the trees, something watched them. Vextar had been following these humans for 3 days. He was a hunter from the Razor Claw people. His kind believed that hunting the most dangerous prey made them strong and honored. Humans were famous across the galaxy as Deathworlders. They came from a planet so dangerous that it made them tough and smart. Killing a human would bring great honor to any hunter. Vextar had special equipment that made him invisible. His weapons could cut through metal like soft clay. He had hunted many different alien species, but never a human. These would be his greatest kill. He watched the humans. Around their fire, the leader was careful and alert. This one had been a warrior. The others were scientists, soft and weak. He would kill the scientists first, then take the leader as his main prize. Back at the camp, Tejo could not sleep. He sat by the fire, listening to every sound. His team slept in their small tents, tired from the long day of work. A branch broke. In the darkness, then another. Something big was moving out there. Tae-ho stood up slowly, holding his weapon. He moved away from the fire so he could see better in the dark. His heart beat fast, but his hands stayed steady. The attack came without warning. A flash of bright light cut through the darkness. Somin's tent exploded in flames. She screamed once, then went silent. "Everyone up!" Taeho shouted. "We are under attack!" Another flash of light hit Wu Jin as he tried to get out of his tent. The energy weapon burned right through him. He fell and did not move again. Hairi ran to her radio equipment, trying to send a help signal. A third energy blast destroyed the radio and threw her against a tree. She hit hard and slid to the ground. Taeho fired his weapon at the flashes of light, but hit nothing. Their attacker was invisible, moving through the jungle like a ghost. Then he saw it. A shape moved between the trees, bending light around itself. It was tall and thin, with long arms and claws that reflected the firelight. Taeho grabbed one of Wu Jin's mining explosives. It was meant for breaking rocks, but it might work against this creature. He set the timer for 5 seconds and threw it toward the moving shape. The explosion lit up the whole clearing. The invisible creature screamed and became visible. It was hurt but not dead. Strange blue blood ran from cuts on its body. The creature looked at Taeho with yellow eyes full of hate. It raised its weapon to finish him, but Taeho was already moving, rolling behind the rocks. The energy blast hit where he had been standing. Rock pieces flew everywhere. One sharp piece cut deep into Taeho's leg. He bit his tongue to stop from crying out. When he looked again, the creature was gone. Blood drops on the ground showed which way it went. But Taeho was too hurt to follow. He could only wait and hope it would not come back. The fire slowly died. The jungle became quiet again. Taeho sat alone among the bodies of his friends, bleeding, and waiting for death or rescue. Neither came quickly. The morning sun found Taeho still alive, but barely. His leg wound had stopped bleeding, but infection was starting. The bodies of his team lay around the cold fire. Flies buzzed over them in the growing heat. Taeho knew he had to move. The creature might come back, and his friends deserved better than to be left for scavengers. He used a broken piece of metal as a crutch. Every step sent pain through his wounded leg, but he forced himself to walk to the crashed shuttle that brought them to this moon. Maybe some equipment still worked. The shuttle was badly damaged from the rough landing 5 days ago. But Taeho was good with machines. He pulled out working parts from the broken ones. A small power cell still had energy. Some food packages were not spoiled. Most important, he found the medical kit. He cleaned his wound with the antiseptic that burned like fire. Then he used the medical glue to close the deep cut. It was not perfect, but it would keep him alive. For the first week, Taeho just tried to survive each day. He made a small shelter from shuttle parts and jungle vines. He found fruits that were safe to eat after testing them carefully on his skin first. A small stream gave him clean water, but surviving was not enough. The creature that killed his team would return. Taeho was sure of it. Creatures like that were hunters. They did not leave wounded prey alive by accident. So he began to learn. Taeho studied everything around him. The jungle had many layers. Big trees formed a roof high above. Smaller trees and thick vines filled the middle space. Strange flowers and mushrooms covered the ground. Each layer had different animals. Some were dangerous, others were harmless. All of them could teach him something. He watched how the small climbing animals hid from the big flying predators. They used the thick leaves and twisted vines to become invisible. They moved without making sound. They seemed to disappear into the jungle itself. Taeho practiced copying them. He learned to move through the vines without shaking the leaves. He found mud that matched the color of tree bark. Soon he could stand against a tree and become hard to see. The jungle plants were more interesting than Somin had realized. Some of them moved when he got close. Others changed color when he touched them. A few seemed to react to his emotions, growing brighter when he was calm, darker when he was angry. After a month, Taeho made his first important discovery. A purple moss grew on the north side of trees. When he rubbed it on his skin, animals could not smell him. Even the big predators walked right past him. When he wore the moss dot, he began collecting useful plants. A yellow flower made a poison that paralyzed small animals. Red berries could make him stay awake for days without getting tired. Thick sap from certain trees could stick things together, stronger than any glue, but the most important plant was one that grew near the stream. It had silver leaves that seemed to glow in the dark. When Tejo ate small amounts of it, his senses became sharper. He could hear sounds from very far away. He could see better in darkness. He could smell things like an animal. The plant was dangerous. Too much would make him sick. But the right amount made him more than human. As months passed, Tejo's body began to change. The jungle's strange chemicals and his daily struggles made him stronger and faster. Scars from thorns and cuts became tough like armor. His hands grew hard from climbing and digging. His mind changed too. He learned to think like the jungle animals. He understood their signals and warnings. When the birds went quiet, danger was coming. When certain insects buzzed loudly, rain would fall soon. When flowers closed during the day, predators were hunting nearby. Tejo began to build his defenses. He dug hidden pits along the paths animals used. He covered them with thin branches and leaves. Sharp stakes at the bottom would stop any creature that fell in. He made snares from strong vines. Some caught food animals. Others were designed to catch something much bigger and more dangerous. He tested each trap until it worked perfectly. The shelter grew larger and more complex. Underground tunnels connected different rooms. Hidden exits led to the jungle in 3 directions. False walls hid his supplies and weapons. Speaking of weapons, Tejo made many. Sharp stakes from the hardest wood. Spears with stone points that could punch through armor. A bow made from flexible vine wood that could shoot arrows farther than any human bow should. But his best weapons were the ones that used the jungle itself. He learned to grow certain vines in patterns that would tangle an enemy's legs. He trained flesh-eating plants to grow where he wanted them. He even found a way to control some of the jungle's predators by copying their mating calls. Year 2 brought new challenges. The rains came harder than before. The river flooded, forcing Tejo to build his shelter higher in the trees. Some of his traps were washed away. But he learned from every problem and made better solutions. During the long rainy season, he had time to think and plan. The creature that killed his team was smart and had advanced weapons, but it was also proud. Hunters like that always returned to finish what they started. Tejo began preparing for that return. He mapped every tree, rock, and animal path in a wide area around his territory. He built weapons, caches in hidden locations. He trained himself to fight in every type of terrain. Most importantly, he learned the creature's weaknesses from studying the equipment left behind in the attack. Pieces of its weapons showed him what technology it used. Drops of its strange blue blood told him about its biology. By the end of year 2, Tejo was no longer the same man who had crashed on this moon. His body was lean and covered in scars, but stronger than it had ever been. His eyes had changed color from the jungle plants, becoming more yellow like a cat's eyes. His reflexes were faster than any human should be. He could run through the jungle without making a sound. He could climb trees like a monkey. He could track animals by scent alone. The jungle that had nearly killed him was now his ally. In the 3rd year, Tejo felt the change complete itself. He was no longer just a human surviving in an alien jungle. He had become something new, a creature perfectly adapted to this world, carrying the intelligence of humanity and the instincts of an apex predator. He spent his days expanding his territory and perfecting his skills. Every morning he practiced with his weapons. Every evening he improved his traps and defenses. At night he listened to the jungle's sounds, learning its rhythms like a musical language. The jungle itself seemed to accept him. Dangerous animals ignored him as if he belonged. Plants grew in patterns that helped hide his movements. Even the weather seemed to work with him rather than against him. Tejo knew his enemy would return soon. Hunters like that creature had pride that demanded satisfaction. It would come back to finish the kill and claim its trophy, but when it came, it would not find the same wounded human it had left behind. It would find something that had evolved beyond its understanding, a predator that had learned to make an entire world into its weapon. The student was ready for the teacher's return. The ship landed on the jungle moon 3 years after the first attack. Vexstar stepped out first, breathing the familiar air of the world where he had earned his greatest victory. Behind him came 2 younger hunters, Kresh and Thane. They were eager to see their teacher claim his legendary prize. "This is where I wounded the human Deathworlder," Vexstar told them, his yellow eyes bright with pride. "The creature fought well for a primitive being, but I left it here to die slowly, as all prey should." Kresh looked around at the thick jungle. "Why did we not take the trophy immediately, Huntmaster?" "Sometimes the hunt is more important than the kill," Vexstar replied. "I wanted the human to suffer first, to understand its place in the natural order. Now we return to collect what is rightfully mine." The 3 hunters activated their cloaking devices and began moving through the jungle. Their advanced scanners showed no human life signs in the area. This pleased Vexstar. It meant the creature had died alone and afraid, just as he planned, but as they moved deeper into the jungle, Vexstar began to notice strange things. The plants grew in patterns that seemed too organized. Vines hung across paths at exactly the right height to slow down large creatures. Flowers bloomed in arrangements that created shadows where none should exist. "Something is different here," Thane whispered. He was the youngest of the 3, but his eyes were sharp. "All jungles change over time," Vexstar said. But privately, he was starting to feel uneasy. His hunter instincts told him they were being watched. They reached the place where the human camp had been. Nothing remained of the burned tents or crashed shuttle. The jungle had swallowed everything, but not in a natural way. The plants here grew in perfect spirals and geometric patterns that hurt the eyes to look at too long. "Where are the bones?" Kresh asked. "Even after 3 years there should be bones." Vexstar activated his deep-range scanner. It should have been able to detect human remains buried anywhere in the area, but the device showed nothing. Even stranger, it showed no large animal life at all. In a jungle this rich, that was impossible. "The scavengers must have carried everything away," he said. But he did not believe his own words. As they explored the area, more strange things appeared. Trees had marks carved into them, not random scratches, but symbols that looked almost like writing. Rocks were arranged in patterns that seemed meaningful, but made no sense. Most disturbing, there were sounds in the jungle that did not belong. The hunters heard their own voices echoing back from the trees, but changed in small ways. Their communication devices picked up signals that sounded like their own language, but spoke words they had not said. Something was copying them, learning their sounds. On the second day, the traps began. Kresh was walking point when the ground gave way under his feet. He fell into a pit that had been perfectly hidden under fake jungle floor. Sharp stakes waited at the bottom, but they were arranged to wound, not kill. Kresh hung there, bleeding but alive, while his companions tried to get him out. "This trap was made for creatures our size," Thane observed. "But no animal on this world is smart enough to build something like this." Vexstar said nothing. He was beginning to understand that something had gone very wrong with his perfect hunt. They pulled Kresh out of the pit and treated his wounds. But as they worked, they heard sounds moving through the jungle around them. Not animal sounds, something that walked on 2 legs just like them. "Show yourself, coward!" Vexstar roared into the jungle. "I know you are there." The only answer was the echo of his own voice coming from several directions at once. That night they made camp in a defensive circle. All 3 hunters stayed awake, weapons ready, but their enemy did not attack. Instead, it played games with their minds. Lights moved through the jungle in patterns that hypnotized the eye. Sounds came from everywhere and nowhere. Their equipment began to malfunction in small ways. Scanners showed false readings, communicators picked up phantom signals, weapons needed constant recalibration. "Something is jamming our technology," Kresh said. His wounds from the pit were healing slowly, too slowly for his advanced medical nanobots to explain. "Not jamming," Thane corrected. "Learning." Whatever is out there is studying our equipment and finding ways to interfere with it. On the third day, Kresh disappeared. He was there one moment, walking behind the others. When they turned around, he was gone. No sound of struggle, no sign of where he went. He simply vanished like smoke. Vextar and Thane searched for hours. Their scanners showed nothing. Their tracking skills, perfected over decades of hunting, found no trail. It was as if Kresh had been swallowed by the jungle itself. They found him the next morning, hanging unconscious from a tree branch 50 feet above the ground. He was alive but stripped of all his equipment. His weapons, his armor, his communication device, everything was gone. Strange symbols were painted on his skin with jungle mud. When Kresh woke up, he could barely speak. "It was there," he whispered, "right next to me. But I could not see it clearly. It moved like part of the jungle. It spoke our language perfectly." "What did it say?" Vextar demanded. "It said ... It said the Huntmaster knows what he did. It said justice comes slowly here." Vextar felt ice in his blood. The human was alive, not just alive but thriving. Somehow the wounded prey he had left to die had become something that could outfight a trained hunter. "We leave now," he ordered. "This hunt is over, but Huntmaster," Thane protested. "Your honor, my honor will survive," Vextar snapped. "Our lives might not?" But as they tried to return to their ship, they discovered the jungle had changed around them. Paths they had used before now led in circles. Landmarks had moved or disappeared. Their navigation equipment spun wildly, unable to get proper readings. They were lost in a jungle that seemed to shift and change when they were not looking directly at it. "We are in its territory now," Vextar said quietly. "It has been preparing for our return." As if summoned by his words, a figure stepped out from behind a tree not 20 feet away. At first, Vextar thought it was just another jungle shadow. But then his eyes focused, and he saw the truth. The creature before them had once been human. But 3 years in this jungle had changed it into something else. Its skin was marked with patterns that made it blend perfectly with the forest. Its eyes glowed with the same light as certain jungle plants. Its movements were fluid and silent like flowing water, but the worst part was the intelligence in those changed eyes. This was not a beast driven by instinct. This was a thinking predator that had learned to use an entire world as its weapon. "Hello, Vextar," the creature said in perfect hunter language. "I have been waiting for you to come home." "The thing that had once been," Tejo smiled, showing teeth that seemed sharper than they should be. "Now we finish what you started." Vextar stared at the creature before him, trying to understand what he was seeing. The human had changed in ways that should not be possible. Its body moved with the grace of a jungle predator. Its skin carried patterns that made Vextar's eyes hurt to follow. Most disturbing, it spoke their language better than some of his own people. "You remember me," Tejo said, tilting his head like a curious animal. "Good, I was worried you might have forgotten your greatest failure." "You should be dead," Vextar snarled, raising his weapon. "I left you broken and bleeding." "You left." "Me learning," Tejo replied. He moved sideways around them, never taking his eyes off the 3 hunters. "This jungle is a good teacher. It shows you how to adapt or how to die." "I chose to adapt." Thane tried to get a clear shot, but Tejo moved like liquid shadow. Every time the young hunter aimed, the human had already shifted to a new position. It was like trying to shoot smoke. "Your student Kresh learned some lessons yesterday," Tejo continued, still circling them. "Today I think Thane needs to learn as well." Before anyone could react, the jungle floor erupted around Thane's feet. Vines thick as a man's arm wrapped around his legs and arms. The young hunter struggled, but the plants held him tight as steel cables. "Impossible," Vextar breathed. "Plants do not hunt." "These ones learn to," Tejo said. "I taught them. They remember the smell of your kind now. They remember what you did to my friends." Thane fired his weapon wildly, but the energy blasts went wide. The vines were pulling him toward a massive flower that opened like a hungry mouth. Inside the flower, needle-sharp thorns dripped with paralysis poison. "Let him go," Vextar demanded. "Your fight is with me." My fight is with all of you, Teho said. But you are right. You are the important one. The others are just lessons. He made a sound that was not quite language and not quite animal. Call, the vines stopped pulling Thane toward the flower, but did not release him. The young hunter hung suspended above the ground, helpless but alive. You see, Teho asked, I control this place now. Every plant, every animal, every drop of water does what I need it to do. 3 years ago you had all the advantages. Now, this is my domain. Vextar activated his personal shield and fired at the human. The energy blast should have killed any living thing, but Teho moved before the weapon finished charging. He was behind a tree when the shot fired, then somewhere else entirely when the energy faded. Too slow, Teho's voice came from above them. They looked up to see him standing on a branch that should not have supported his weight. Your technology makes you lazy. You depend on machines instead of skill. Kresh tried to use his scanner to track the human's movement, but the device showed impossible readings. The target was in 6 different places at once, then nowhere, then everywhere. He is jamming our equipment, Kresh said. No, Teho called down. I am just using things you do not understand. This jungle has its own energy patterns. I learned to blend with them. Your machines cannot tell the difference between me and the background anymore. To prove his point, he dropped from the branch and landed silently on the jungle floor. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he seemed to fade from sight. Not invisible like their cloaking technology, but perfectly camouflaged. Their eyes could not focus on him even when they knew where he was. Huntmaster, Thane called from where the vines held him. What is this creature? It is what humans become when you give them time to adapt, Vextar said grimly. I should have killed it quickly. Yes, you should have, Teho agreed. His voice seemed to come from all around them now. But you wanted me to suffer first? You wanted me to feel helpless and afraid? Now you know how that feels. A dart hit Kresh in the shoulder. He looked down at the small needle, then at Vextar. With confusion in his eyes, Huntmaster, I feel strange. The paralysis poison worked quickly. Kresh fell to his knees, then onto his side. He was still conscious, still breathing, but could not move any part of his body. The poison will not kill him, Teho said, stepping back into view. But he will not move for many hours. Long enough for us to finish our business. Now it was just Vextar and the creature that had once been his prey. The Huntmaster raised his weapon but did not fire. Something in the human's eyes stopped him. You want to know how I survived, Teho said. It was not a question. Tell me, Vextar replied. Pain, Teho said simply. Pain taught me everything. The pain of my wounds made me find medicine in the plants. The pain of hunger made me learn which fruits were safe. The pain of loneliness made me listen to the jungle's voice until I understood its language. He held up his hands. The fingers were longer than they should be, with nails that had grown thick and sharp like claws. The pain of change made me become something new. You are no longer human, Vextar observed. I am more human than ever, Teho corrected. Humans adapt. That is what we do. You took me to the edge of death, and I adapted past it. You gave me 3 years to prepare, and I used every day. As if to demonstrate, he whistled a complex pattern. The jungle around them began to move. Plants shifted position. Animals called to each other in organized patterns. The very ground seemed to pulse with hidden life. This entire region obeys me now, Teho explained. I am not just a predator. Here, I am the ecosystem's brain. When you entered my territory, every plant and animal told me where you were. Your every move was reported to me. Vextar felt something he had not experienced in decades of hunting, true fear. Not fear of death, but fear of facing something completely beyond his understanding. What do you want? He asked. Justice, Teho said. You killed my friends. You left me to die slowly and in pain. Now you will understand what that feels like. I will fight you, Vextar declared, raising his weapon. No, Teho said calmly, you will not fight me. You will learn from me. Just like I learned from this jungle. He made another sound, different from the first. This time, the response came from the sky. Flying creatures with sharp beaks and glowing eyes descended from the canopy. They did not attack, but they surrounded Vexstar in a living cage of wings and claws. "You can kill me," Vexstar said, "but my people will send others. They will hunt you until—" "Until what?" Tejo interrupted. "Until they adapt like I did? Until they learn to work with this jungle. Instead of fighting it, I would welcome more teachers." The transformed human stepped closer. In the jungle's green light, his changed eyes seemed to glow with their own inner fire. "But that is not what will happen, Vexstar. You are going to leave this place. You are going to return to your people, and you are going to tell them that humans are not prey to be hunted for sport." "They will not believe me." "They will believe the fear in your voice," Tejo said. "They will see how you shake when you speak of this place. And they will understand that some prey is too dangerous to hunt." The flying creatures parted, leaving Vexstar a clear path through the jungle. "Go," Tejo commanded. "Take your students and go. But know this, if any of your kind ever returns to hurt innocent people, I will find them. This jungle taught me patience. It also taught me how to hunt." Vexstar looked at his paralyzed companion, at his student hanging in the vines, at the creature that had once been his prey. For the first time in his long life as a hunter, he felt like the hunted. "You have become a monster," he said. "No," Tejo replied. "You made me into exactly what you deserve to face." The clearing where Tejo led them was like nothing Vexstar had ever seen. Plants grew in perfect circles, their bioluminescent flowers creating natural lighting that made the space feel sacred and terrible at the same time. The ground was covered with soft moss that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. "This is where I come to think," Tejo said, releasing the vines that held Thane. The young hunter fell to his knees, gasping. 3 years ago, I was just like you, sure that I understood how the universe worked. Sure that I knew who was predator and who was prey." Kresh was starting to recover from the paralysis. He could move his fingers now, though his legs still would not work. All 3 hunters were alive, but they were completely at the mercy of their former prey. "Why do you not kill us?" Vexstar asked. Despite his fear, his warrior's pride demanded an answer. "Because death is too simple," Tejo replied. He sat cross-legged on the soft moss, looking more like a meditation teacher than a deadly predator. "Death ends learning, and you still have much to learn." The plants around them swayed without any wind, responding to some signal only Tejo understood. Flowers opened and closed in rhythm with his breathing. Even in this moment of apparent calm, the jungle showed who its master was. "You hunt for honor," Tejo continued. "Your people believe that killing dangerous prey makes you strong and respected. But you have never faced prey that could learn from you and become stronger. Humans are known as Deathworlders," Thane said, finding his voice again. "We knew you were dangerous." "No," Tejo shook his head. "You knew we were tough. You knew we were hard to kill. But you never understood the real danger of hunting humans." He stood up and walked to the center of the clearing. The bioluminescent plants grew brighter as he moved, as if feeding off his presence. "The real danger is not that we are hard to kill. The real danger is that we learn from everything that tries to kill us. Every challenge makes us stronger. Every enemy teaches us new ways to survive." Vexstar watched as small animals emerged from the jungle to surround Tejo. They were predators themselves, creatures with sharp teeth and claws that should have been fighting each other. But they sat peacefully around the transformed human-like students around a teacher. "You have made pets of them?" Vexstar said. "No," Tejo replied. "I have made partners of them. They teach me their hunting skills. I teach them strategy and planning. Together we have become something greater than the sum of our parts." He knelt down and placed his hand on the head of a lizard-like creature with poisonous spines. The animal closed its eyes and made a sound like purring. "This is what you never understood about humans," Tejo said. "We do not just adapt to environments, we make environments adapt to us. We do not just survive challenges, we turn challenges into advantages." Kresh was able to sit up now, though his movements were still shaky. What are you going to do with us? I am going to give you the same choice you gave me 3 years ago, Teho said. You can die here, quickly and with honor. Or you can live, with the knowledge of what you have seen. That is no choice at all, Vexstar protested. It is exactly the choice you gave me, Teho replied. Die immediately from your weapons or die slowly from my wounds. I chose a third option, to live and become strong enough that you could never hurt me again. The transformed human walked over to where Vexstar sat. Up close, the changes were even more dramatic. His skin had patterns that seemed to shift and flow. His eyes held depths that spoke of long nights learning the jungle's secrets. Most unsettling, he smelled like the jungle itself, earth and growing things and hidden dangers. But I am not you, Teho said. I do not kill for sport or honor. I kill only when necessary. So I offer you something you did not offer me, a real choice. He gestured, and the plants around them began to change. Flowers bloomed that had not been there moments before. Vines grew and twisted into new patterns. The jungle was reshaping itself according to his will. You can fight me now and die like the warriors you believe yourselves to be. Or you can return to your people with a message. What message? Vexstar asked. That humans are not prey, Teho said simply. That we are not trophies to be collected. We are survivors who learn from every attempt to destroy us. Hunt us, and we will hunt you back. And we will be better at it than you are. Thane looked around the clearing with new understanding. You turned this entire region into a trap for us. I'd turned it into a classroom, Teho corrected. Everything. Here was designed to teach you what I learned. That intelligence and adaptation are more powerful than technology and tradition. He walked to the edge of the clearing and whistled a complex tune. Moments later, other creatures emerged from the jungle. Some walked on legs, others slithered or flew. All of them had the same look of intelligent cooperation that Teho's first animal partners showed. You see? He said, I am no longer alone. I have built a community here. A new kind of ecosystem where intelligence guides instinct, where cooperation creates strength. Vexstar felt the weight of complete defeat. Not just military defeat, but the defeat of everything he had believed about the natural order of the universe. If we return with this message, he said slowly, our people will think we are cowards who ran from a single human. Then show them. This, Teho said. He reached into a pouch made from woven vines and pulled out pieces of advanced technology. Weapons, scanners, communication devices, all the equipment his ambush had captured from other hunting parties over the years. Other hunters have come here? Kresh asked in shock. 17 different groups, Teho confirmed. All sent by different species who heard rumors of a human Deathworlder loose on a jungle moon, all thinking they could claim an easy trophy. What happened to them? They learned the same lessons you are learning. Some chose death. Others chose to return home with a new understanding of what humans are capable of. A few chose to stay and help me build this new community. As if summoned. By his words, figures stepped out of the jungle shadows. Vexstar's hearts nearly stopped when he recognized them. Hunters from a dozen different species, all bearing the marks of jungle adaptation. They had been changed by this place and its human guardian, transformed from predators into something else entirely. Welcome to the real lesson, Teho said. This is not about humans versus aliens. This is about choosing cooperation over domination. About learning instead of destroying, about growing instead of taking. He spread his arms to encompass the entire clearing, the jungle beyond, and all the transformed creatures within it. I did not just survive your attack, Vexstar. I used it to build something new, something better. A place where intelligence creates harmony instead of conflict. The Huntmaster looked at his students, at the diverse community surrounding them, at the human who had become something beyond his understanding. For the first time in his long life, he felt small. Will you carry the message? Teho asked. Vexstar nodded slowly. I will tell them, but I do not know if they will listen. Some will, Teho said with confidence. And those who do not will eventually find their way here to learn the lesson personally. I have patience. The jungle taught me that too. As the three hunters prepared to leave, Tejo gave them one final gift: seeds from the jungle's most useful plants, along with instructions for growing them. Take these back to your worlds, he said. Show your people that cooperation with nature is more powerful than domination over it. Maybe someday we will all learn to grow together instead of fighting each other. Vextar took the seeds with hands that shook slightly. You could have killed us easily. Why show us mercy? Because mercy is the strongest adaptation of all, Tejo replied. It turns enemies into allies. It creates growth instead of destruction. It builds futures instead of ending them. As the hunter's ship lifted off from the jungle moon, Vextar looked back at the green world that had changed everything he believed. Somewhere down there, a human who had become more than human was tending to a garden that might someday feed the galaxy. The prey had not just escaped the trap. It had transformed the trap into a nursery for a better kind of life. And in the depths of space, other hunting ships received a message that would change how the galaxy viewed the small, tough species from the dangerous blue world. The message was simple but terrifying. Humans learn. Humans adapt. Humans survive. And sometimes they even forgive. Back on the jungle moon, Tejo stood in his clearing and watched the stars. His transformation was complete, but his evolution continued. Every day brought new discoveries, new partnerships, new possibilities. The jungle whispered around him in 1,000 voices, telling him of changes yet to come. And he whispered back, sharing the wisdom of two worlds, the harsh lessons of Earth and the growing secrets of his adopted home. The student had become something greater than any teacher. And the lesson was just beginning.